Welcome to another indie showcase here on the channel, highlighting the many developers submitted games and demos we check out. If you'd like to submit a game for a future piece, please get in touch. But we are starting things off with Road 96. This is a story-driven kind of choose-your-own adventure road trip style game, where you are trying to flee a dictatorship country. And along the way, you're going to meet all manner of unusual people, get into danger, and try to get out with a multitude of different endings. So the big thing about this game is that each area is kind of set up as its own vignette. And the decisions that you make across that vignette will affect the outcome, as well as what you end up with in terms of resources and other things. So this is definitely a game for someone who's looking for a very interesting story-based title. For me, I'm not a huge fan, again, of story-first kind of games, so the game kind of didn't work for me, but it definitely has style. And I would say that if you are a fan or looking for another great story-heavy game, definitely check out Road 96. But if you're hoping for something with a lot more in terms of interaction, then I don't think this game is going to work for you. We now turn to Maritime Calling. The footage that you are seeing is taken from a pre-release build. Since we played the game, it has gone through early access and is released, and what you see may not represent the current version of it. So this one is basically, what if we took Sid Meier's Pirates and threw in like a dash of FTL, in that you are exploring the world node by node with your merry crew, as you are trying to get fame, fortune, loot other ships, and of course get into high stakes battles. So the big aspect of this one is definitely kind of the depth of these systems. Each part of your ship needs to have a crewmate attached to it. They'll be able to perform different works, they'll level up. If they are attacked or killed due to events or combat, they are gone for good and someone else will take their place. In terms of the actual ship sailing, the game definitely goes more towards a realistic side, as you'll need to adjust the sails as well as hoisting your anchor or letting it drop. And it definitely is trying to be a little bit more advanced than some of the other games that we've played. Now, the big issue that I had from when I played it was that the onboarding was very rough. It didn't really have like good tutorials at the time. It was kind of hard to figure out what you should be doing or what all these different icons and things all over the screen meant. Again, this is a footage taken from its pre-early access, and I don't know where it is at right now. All in all, I think this game had some interesting potential, but it may be hard if you're looking for a game that you can really get in quick and start enjoying. But if you are somebody looking for a more evolved take on the Sid Meier's Pirates formula, then I would say at least give this one a check. We now have Kulebra, which I'm pretty sure I just butchered horribly, and the Souls of Limbo. This was a demo that we checked out during one of the Next Fests, and this is a adventure game where you play as this kind of like bone snake who is trapped in limbo. And in order to get out, we need to figure out why there are so many souls who have not been able to move on, and they are stuck in their respective corners of limbo. This, again, is definitely more on the adventure side, despite the fact that you see me rolling around the Sonic style all around the place. Each area is essentially self-contained and is its own chapter. Your mission is to figure out what is stopping people from moving on, with the twist that at daybreak or at sunrise, the entire world resets. Certain aspects will remain unlocked, and it's your job to figure out what areas you can move on, which ones will reset, and then use that knowledge in order to make more and more progress. I really like the aesthetic of this game. It has a lot of bright colors. There's some very impressive stuff that we see later on in it. Now, with that said, it does have, I think, a little bit more action than you may expect from looking at this demo or looking at the footage. When you roll around, there's a challenge that you had to roll from one end of the map to the other, and you weren't allowed to stop at any point. And that felt like a little bit janky, and a little bit, I think, like off for this kind of gameplay that, again, focuses more on adventure and puzzle solving rather than pure action. Now, with that said, of course, with this being a demo, I don't know if they have adjusted that since we played this. But I found this game to be very charming. And if you are a fan of adventure-style games, definitely check out the demo. I believe it is still available now, and I'm curious to see where things go in the full version. But with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have a few more games to look at. So, if you are interested in my thoughts on design, then check out my design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 Essential Games to Study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with free-to-play coming in 2022. We now turn to Spookware. This is the kind of spin-off, or I guess full game, that was originally featured in one of the DreadX collections. What you're seeing is taken from kind of the first release of it. They're planning on doing different chapter releases and kind of going for that episodic content release. So we play as the Kulebras here, who have decided to venture out of their house after watching tons and tons of horror movies into the wide open world, where maybe something is stalking them, or they're just out to have a good time. Each chapter of the game takes place in a different location, with different rules and structures around its minigames. The big thing about Spookware is that it was heavily inspired by, as the name should give you a hint, the WarioWare style of micro games, where when you go to complete a trial or do something challenging, it takes in the form of a micro game that can take a few seconds, maybe at most 15 to 20 seconds. If you mess up, you'll usually get a few chances, but mess up too many times and you'll have to repeat the whole thing. As you explore each one of the game's environments, you'll find hidden collectibles, and of course, a lot of wacky writing for these characters. All in all, this is one of those games that you'll know, I think, very quickly if you're either on board for the Kulebras antics, or if it just doesn't work for you. Some of the micro games can be a little weird in terms of figuring out what they want. They use a very simplified UI, and it can be a little tricky when you first start playing to know what exactly am I trying to do and how things work. But if you are a fan of some of the spoofy horror, and especially micro games in general, then I would say definitely check this one out. We now have the demo for Super Catboy. This is a game that is meant to emulate the animal mascot-driven era of 90s 16-bit platforming. You play as this radical cat here, not to be confused with Felix the Cat or Bubsy the Cat, with your mission to explore, beat the bad guys, collect lots and lots of loot, and of course, shoot your little gun there. So I really do like the aesthetic of the game. It has that kind of like 90s animation style look to it. You'll be able to run, jump, and do all kinds of crazy maneuvers while collecting various goodies. From what we played of it, the controls feel very responsive, and there seems to be a decent variety in terms of level design. Now, unfortunately, this being a demo, we don't have too much to go on from the finished game. That should be, I believe, by the end of 2022. But if you're somebody who's looking for another 2D platformer to jump around in, then I would say give this one a check, and I believe the demo may still be available now. For our final game of this episode, this is Berserk Boy, another demo that we played. This one kind of feeling like a cross between like a Mega Man X and maybe even something like a Gunstar Heroes or Sonic style game. It's our job to explore cities, fight off evil robots, save the good guys, beat the bad guys. But where this game kind of differentiates itself from other titles is that there is a sense of like Metroidvania progression. You have these different elemental orbs. You can see my purple orb in the upper left right now. Whatever your orb is, or your element, will change your attack and movement tech while you have that equipped. So right now, while I'm using these lightning orb, it allows you to do these kinds of dashing, rapid attacks, things like that. But in a second, I'm going to swap the footage and you're going to see when I use the fire orb, which changes what you're able to do in each level, as well as what you're trying to unlock. And it's a really clever idea of giving the game a bit more depth. Also, I want to give a shout out to the aesthetic. It has a really great look to it, some fantastic music, which I think my voice is drowning out at the moment. But this is definitely a game for people looking for a very action-focused 2D platformer. And if the thought of playing something that is on the challenging side is of interest to you, like it is to me, then definitely keep an eye out for Berserk Boy. I don't know what they're going to do in terms of approachability or different difficulty settings, but I would say it feels more like on the moderate side, at least from what we played during this demo. Really looking forward to it, and I hope we'll be able to check it out when it is released. But that is going to do it for this showcase. Thank you so much for watching. You'll find links to all the games down below. Again, if you are a developer working on a game that you want me to look at, please reach out. Check out our Discord and Patreon link down below, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.